Hi everybody, now in this video we're going to have a look at how you can use multi-band compression to really hype up drum sounds, rebalance them, so if they're deficient in a certain area of the frequency range you can basically bring out that area whilst compressing another area to rebalance it. And also if you're using vintage drum sounds that are maybe a little bit lacking in the high-end energy, you can re-inject that sound into them by using this technique with multi-band compression. Now if you find this video useful, please check out the description because I'm giving you steps on how you can get another 2 tutorial videos that explain techniques I used in the creation of this track. One of them being how you can get Logic to generate percussion parts for you and how you can make these organic and generative by using probability gates included in Logic's MIDI effects, and also how you can use volume shaping plugins to chop up disco loops, which is exactly what I did to create this track. So check out the description where I give you the steps to be able to access those videos and the samples used in the track. But let's dive in right now and have a look at this multi-band compression technique on drums. Now with this track, when I was mixing it down, I found that it was a little bit too kind of dusty sounding, a bit too old school sounding and not bright enough. I needed to get some more kind of high frequency energy dialed in a little bit, especially on the drum loop. So this is the drum loop here. Okay, let me just take this Pro and B off. So I wanted some more high frequency and a bit more hype and energy from this drum loop. So let me show you how I did that. So I'll put the Pro and B back on now. You can use any multi-band compressor for this. Pro and B is amazing fab filter, so if you have this and you don't already use it, it's just absolute killer tool, really amazingly powerful. So what I really wanted to do, let me just solo this. I really wanted more information here and less information there, because especially when the bass came in, it became very dominant in this area and it was sounding a bit muddy overall, because obviously these old school loops, they're great because they really add in character and vibe into your drums, but they don't add in modern day hi-fi, high frequency energy. So I just felt like I was missing a little bit from the drum loop. So this is what I did. Okay, so I set a high frequency band, a kind of high shelf, but I expanded it, so I didn't compress it. So if you're not sure of expansion and what it is, it's basically saying anything above the threshold, rather than compressing it and turning it down, turn it up. So we're basically we're doing the opposite of compression. We're expanding the dynamic range. We're making the louder sounds even louder. So I'm saying, okay, every time these high frequencies, because remember we're just using this band, every time they exceed this threshold, let's turn them up. Now you have to make sure you set the threshold so there's actually sound exceeding it. Now using the release time, we can make it kind of smoother sounding if we make it a longer release, and you'll see that it's just generally adding more high frequencies in a smoother way. So like this is kind of much more choppy, much more dynamic, and especially with a hard knee it's going to be. But you might end up with kind of like getting it being a bit spitty, whereas with a longer release we're just generally adding more high frequencies and it's a kind of smoother effect. The attack time obviously is going to really kind of grip the transients and turn them up. And with a slower attack, it's going to be more the RMS kind of energy, the average kind of energy. Let's try it like that. Now I kind of wanted to kind of join this with a little bit of a compression on the low band, which is what I'm going to do now. So low shelf, compressing the low mids to low frequencies. So let's bypass it. Now I've probably done this a little bit more extreme than I did in the actual track. Now we could actually just do an overall EQ as well. You know, you can do things like that as well if you want to. So you can do an overall shaping. Now you might be thinking, why don't you just EQ it? But this is a dynamic effect. So it's pumping and it's breathing and it's kind of it's a bit more exciting and a bit more kind of hyped up than just straight EQing. And in some ways a bit more transparent because it's responding to the actual sound that's coming through as well. So let's listen again. Now what's great about this plugin is we can actually just dial back what we've done overall, so we can kind of like expand it or bring it back. Now let's try it in the mix. See how it opens things up. Now you might be thinking, well, I actually prefer it sounding a bit more kind of lo-fi, but when the bass comes in, I felt like I really needed a bit more space here. I'm going to exaggerate it. Now, what you can focus on is, in a very subtle way, the mix gains height. So if you shut your eyes and listen to me bringing that in and out, with it out, it feels like things are a little bit more between the speakers, or kind of, they're just a little bit more in the middle. They're not as high and not as low. Whereas with the effect in, it feels like the mix gains height, because this area here, this low mid kind of area, you could actually bring this up maybe. This could actually be a bit higher. This low mid area, kind of from 200 up to kind of 1K, that makes things sound really solid in the speakers. But if we have lots of things that are really solid in the speakers in this area, it can make things sound a bit boxy, a bit muddy, a bit flat sounding. Whereas I think with this effect in, we get a little bit more height to the mix. So shut your eyes and have a listen. A bit more open, a bit more closed and flat. So it really opens things up. Now it's not like, it's not going to change the chart position of the track, but all these little tiny things are going to add up to make something which sounds, impressive at the end. I think on its own it's not a major difference, but if you then combine that with all the other little tweaks you make along the way, hopefully it adds up to something which sounds really nicely balanced and well mixed. And of course you could do this on masters as well. There's nothing stopping you putting this on the master and doing it that way. Now just while we look at this, there's some other settings here. If you have oversampling, I'd say put oversampling on, because that's going to increase the quality. And if you have complex material, you want to use linear phase. So I probably should have this on linear phase because it's a whole drum loop crossing lots of different frequencies. Yeah, it's pretty subtle, but the difference is definitely there. And this is something I do all the time. I'm using Pro MB all the time on my mixes, on other people's mixes, mastering. I just use it all the time to get things to just pump in different areas that I need more energy. Look at the meters, look where you're deficient in energies, and find sounds that have frequencies and energy in those areas, and use Pro MB to pump them and breathe them and make them come to life a little bit in that energy. It's like shaking up the sound and just giving it more hype in that area. It's really powerful. Okay, I hope you found that video useful, and once again, if you check out the description, I'm giving you steps to be able to get another 2 tutorial videos and all the samples I used in this track. So if you're interested in checking those out, follow the steps in the description. Thanks for watching.